We had hoped that Republicans would be willing to negotiate with Democrats prior to a government shutdown, as opposed to after a government shutdown. But we'll have to see. That will ultimately be the responsibility of Republican leaders in Congress to decide whether or not they can demonstrate to the American people that they're capable of leading the Congress.
There are those who will swear to you there is no such thing in America as a young black Republican. Yet they're out there, and they're seeking to flex their considerable new muscle and be heard above the partisan din this political season. Just one issue we'll deal with heading inside the Beltway with the chief political columnist and White House correspondent for Newsmax, John Gizzi. John, I'm going to go ahead and take everybody right to your recent article on the Newsmax website, Young Black Republicans Move to Win Voters. You mentioned that it's a half century of single digits, yet they do believe that they have enough people here to basically create a stir. As I said, there's a lot of people out there that would be even shocked to hear that there are young black Republicans.
Yes, it is, and it's even more surprising to find out that in history, Republicans got as much as a third of the black vote in presidential elections. Dwight Eisenhower in 1956 got about 36% of the black vote. Democratic Congressman Adam Clayton Powell, himself a black, broke ranks to support the Republican president. Richard Nixon got about a third to 36%. It's been since 1964 and Barry Goldwater's vote against the Civil Rights Act that have deflated that figure immensely. That's all part of history, and it's important, but it's changing. So says Niger Innis, spokesman for the Congress of Racial Equality. He brought together a lot of young black leaders who are already Republican Party officials in Florida and Colorado and North Carolina with some of the older and more established black leaders. Former Republican National Chairman Michael Steele, occasional guest on Newsmax. They had a summit meeting in Washington last week, and they're preparing to go out and mobilize other peoples. Mr. Innis tells me that we're seeing history in the making. He noted that his father, Roy Innis, one of the early leaders of CORE and still its national chairman, helped bring Republicans over for Richard Nixon and is himself a registered Republican. He wants to expand that trend and change history.
All right.
We'll watch it. It's going to be a fascinating story.
We will indeed have to watch it because, again, I tell everybody to go to the Newsmax.com website, read the article, learn more about it. Let's go ahead and spin to something else inside the GOP. John Boehner's under a tremendous amount of criticism. That's nothing new. Mitch McConnell's under some criticism. That's nothing new. Here we come to another possible government shutdown. All this that is involved. John, are we at a point now where John Boehner and Mitch McConnell can actually hold off a lot of these critics? Because I'm telling you, I hear people say maybe it is time to get some of the old guard out of there and create some new leadership. Maybe Boehner and McConnell just can't get the job done anymore.
I hear it all the time from the punditocracy, Ed, but what I have to say is, like it or not, the punditocracy and the professional complainers, whether their complaints are justified or not, don't have the votes. And don't take my word for it. I was at a meeting of conservative Republican House members, many of them elected in the two election cycles, 2014 and 2012, that really enhanced conservative Tea Party ranks. I asked point blank, would they support North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows' plan to vacate the chair and depose Speaker Boehner now? To a person, they said no. But the Speaker has to demonstrate some leadership on the defunding of the XM Bank and the defunding of Planned Parenthood. This is the holy grail for young conservatives, and it'll be a defining moment in whether John Boehner keeps his gavel. For now, I'd say his grip's pretty firm.
All right, about 2 minutes we have that. Let's go ahead and take the government shutdown and move it to another area here, because the president wants to take the budget fight to the GOP. We hear that. Okay, the shutdown's nearing. But what's really interested me is a lot of the news we've heard about members of the GOP who, quite frankly, would like to take Ted Cruz aside and say, would you please just shut up? And I'm going to try, and I'm saying it nicely, if you will, about using Planned Parenthood. The whole government shutdown here, it's not going to work. You're not helping when you continue to say a lot of this. Is that true, what you hear as well?
No, it isn't, and I'll tell you why, Ed. If a budget comes out of the House and makes it to the Senate that includes everything that the White House wants, except the funding of Planned Parenthood, and this is a plan that's discussed, and the president still vetoes it, if that budget includes not funding Planned Parenthood, but simply taking the appropriations and giving it to federal health centers, which do 8 times the service that Planned Parenthood's outlets do, and the president still vetoes it on that ground, then he will own any government shutdown. It would be the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue that's engaging in a reckless shooting craps with destiny.
Apparently, the president wants to call on Republicans to end the tax breaks here, some certain tax breaks, use funds to pay for spending increases on domestic and national security programs, sort of an olive branch, if you will. 30 seconds I have left. Do you think that this plan will help succeed and at least stop the government shutdown?
People would love to end corporate welfare, and I do think that that's going to be a talking point. But I would also say keep your eye on the ball, and the ball in this case is Planned Parenthood and the XM Bank.
And I wanted to point out to everybody that what we're talking about here, I want to make it clear, this is the multi-billion-dollar tax advantage for private equity managers. So it starts to get into the political and the economic weeds here, which we will, of course, take and we will parse out and we will make sense of it all as we move down towards that time. John Gizzi, always a pleasure, my friend. Remind everybody once again, Newsmax.com. The title of the article is Young Black Republicans Move to Win Voters. Learn more about what Niger Innes is saying, what John is telling us, and what he hears on the inside. John Gizzi, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. We will continue to follow that story and a whole lot more because, of course, somebody is going to have to take responsibility if indeed there is another government shutdown, and you just know that the president wants to make sure that it doesn't land on his desk. More to land next. Take a break. Come back. The fastest 60 minutes of news continues.